What's up, everybody? It is the Thursday Daily Fantasy NFL show, InsidersTV, brought to you by FantasyElite, the app that you get in the App Store. And with me on today's show, Davis Maddock, our normal host, is not going to be on today's show because he's got a puffy face. So I tried to warn him. He was like, nah, I'll be good. I'm like, no, if you get your wisdom teeth out, Davis, you need to take every precaution. And Micah's there with me, trying to reason with him. Sometimes I feel like Leone and I, after a show, we're Davis's fathers. We try to give him advice. And sometimes he just doesn't listen. And by sometimes, I mean he never listens. So he's like, nah, I'll be good. And I'm like, no, you really, and Mike's like, Davis, you really got to do what they say. So he didn't, and now he has puffy face, and he thinks he's getting dry sockets. So such life, and this is what happens when you eat gummy bears 2 days after you get your wisdom teeth out. So
that's the worst possible thing you could eat after getting.
I think it was Sour Patch Kids, not gummy bears. To be fair.
Okay, step down, but still in the same area.
With us on today's show, we have his fill-in, Dave Loughran, a.k.a. Laffy D, the guy that won $20,000 on Tuesday night in the DraftKings Perfect Game.
So not much of a fill-in, right? An upgrade. I'm just joking.
Sure.
You're the man, Davis. Feel better, buddy.
Then we have late round QB, a.k.a. JJ Zachariason from Number Fire. And then Drew Dinkmeyer, you might know him as a DK Pro. He also is with RedoExperts.com, does Daily Fantasy Rundown there with Michael Leone. So, guys, how goes it today?
It goes.
Great.
Yeah, so we're talking NFL stuff. And basically, what are your first impressions? I'll tell you, there's a handful of players that I've seen touted everywhere. Let's see if you guys can touch on them all in the first 2 minutes. Dave,
Andrew Luck's got to be number one.
He's one of them.
He's number one of them.
Okay. Drew?
I would go LaShawn McCoy then. If Andrew Luck's getting a lot of pub, I would guess that LaShawn McCoy is getting a lot of pub as well.
No, he's not. Oh, Dave, you're smoking again.
Tuesday had an effect on me, man.
Oh, boy.
But in my defense, I've cut down from a pack to around 4 or 5 a day.
Okay.
So I'm getting there, man.
Okay.
It's tough. It's very tough, but
it is.
Hey, at least I'm not hiding it, right?
You're definitely not. I mean, you just fired up one on the show, so no, definitely not.
I think I have a crack pipe with
JJ. Who's a guy that you are seeing promoted?
Demarius on DraftKings at least.
Yeah. I feel like Gio Bernard is getting tons of love this week.
Yeah.
I don't love him, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you don't love him, Dave. He's getting tons of love, and of course, you've got
Locker.
What's that?
Locker, Tennessee.
Jake Locker.
Yeah,
Yep.
That's what I was going to say. You got the Tennessee situation. I did see where Matthew Berry said that he loves Kendall Wright, didn't put Justin Hunter, and of course, Davis is like, stop. He does not like it when receivers under 6'3" get any sort of publicity. Let's start there, though. Would you rather have Justin Hunter or Kendall Wright this week? I know, is that a site-specific question, Drew?
I'd have to look at the pricing. I'm guessing that there's still a price gap between the two on most. I've only started really constructing on FanDuel simply because I have to, because it's Thursday lock games.
Hunter's 4,300 on DraftKings, Wright is 58. So there's a pretty nice disparity. Yeah,
that's a big price gap. Where there's a big price gap, I would say I would be much more inclined to play Hunter, even on a full PPR site with the big price gap. Where there's not as big of a price gap, I want exposure to both, to be completely honest. I think you want you want exposure to Tennessee against that Dallas defense, but I don't trust the running situation enough, so I'm going to want it all through the passing game because they played like 4 running backs in no reasonable fashion in terms of the order of the distribution of carries, so I don't want to mess around with the running game.
Or Sean Green.
The one thing, though, I mean, like, what about he's 3,300 on DraftKings this week.
That's
like,
cheap.
The price point's attractive. He had 15 carries last week. He was second in the league in red zone attempts. Like, with Sean Green, you're
he
essentially
has to score.
Yeah, he has to score. That's the key with Sean Green. I think,
but that's the tough.
But there's also the thing, like I see him on like FanDuel. I think he's like 5K or something, and there's a guy like Terrence West or other guys who are popping up that I'd rather play over Sean Green. But with regards to Hunter or Kendall Wright, I mean, I know that Wright got the touchdown and more receptions last week, but Hunter was the highest targeted wide receiver on that team last week, which is huge. So I'm definitely on Team Justin Hunter.
I'm conflicted because while Hunter did have more targets than Wright by 1. Wright caught all but 1 target. He's got a better rapport with the quarterback from what we've been seeing. Hey, look, Hunter has more upside. That's clear. I don't think anybody can deny that. But when you're looking at a possession receiver, and Wright did score last week, so that gives you something. But you can't expect it this week. I guess what I'm saying is that while Hunter is a clear GPP play, especially at 4,300 on DraftKings, Wright's one of those. I think, and I don't like to separate cash games and GPP plays all that much, but I think here you can do that with Wright and Hunter.
Yeah, especially on FanDuel where their price points are a lot closer than on DraftKings.
Yeah, I think I don't know. Like Justin Hunter should have had a touchdown last week too.
Right,
he should have.
Could have had 2.
Yeah,
could have had 2, right?
Yeah, he could have had 2. So. Yeah. I think they're both in line for big games, and I would say that I'm much more liable if I'm playing Wright over Hunter to play him on a PPR site because he might get 8 catches this week, whereas Hunter is definitely the target. I think he's the go-to target in this offense. Like you saw that last week. I mean, with him getting the highest number of targets. That's big for a guy like Justin Hunter, who last season, was getting 3 or 4 targets a game. So they've obviously kind of made him the focal point of that offense. And Titans going to be heavily owned. Okay, Jake Locker though as your quarterback, yay or nay?
A little bit of both.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll ask this. Let me ask this: would Jake Locker as a cash game quarterback, yay or nay, Dave?
To be honest with you, Dave, I'll probably have Andrew Luck on the majority of my lineups.
That is not my that's not my question. Like, are you?
Well, listen. Let me finish.
Oh my gosh.
Let me
the guy
finish
wins $20,000.
Andrew Luck's 8,400 on DraftKings. Jake Locker is 7,100, and considering the difference there in price, which isn't that much, with the contrasting skill sets, I would take Andrew Luck in a game where I expect him to be huge. But do I dislike Locker? No, I'd throw him in some cash games. Sure.
Okay, well that's my question.
Okay, all right.
My question was,
hey
Dave, do you like Andrew Luck or Jake Locker more? I mean, if you heard that, I apologize.
I got there in a roundabout way, but I got there.
Drew, can you just answer the question?
He's a viable cash game option, but he's not a preferred cash game option. Is the way that I'd explain it.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks for shorthanding that for me, Drew.
Hey, Dave, did you see the way he answered the question?
Well, that's because he had mine to go off of, and he said, "I don't want to do that."
It's true.
Well, yeah,
true. I got a good first date.
You provided definitely a good base for what not to do.
Right there, you go. I'm here for something.
Oh man, you just made me auto draft in my elite game, Dave.
Totally my fault.
Putting up with your shenanigans. Then I got JJ to worry about dropping off the call. JJ, are you there?
Yeah, I think I'm here now. Am I here?
Okay, yeah, you're there. What do you think?
I don't know. Well, I don't know what was just said, but I mean, I'm cool with them this week for the most part. I'd lean obviously other options like an Andrew Luck or an Aaron Rodgers. I don't know if he was If you, are you gonna make fun of me now, Kitchen? In cash games, I think Rodgers' price point is pretty solid as well against a really bad Jets secondary. But yeah, I mean, like I'm cool with Locker. I think he has a decent floor against a really bad defense. High over under in that game. Titans are favorites, and he's got the upside with his legs as well.
He looked really good. He looked really comfortable in that offense.
Yeah. No, it's Ken Wisenhunt too, man. He's a quarterback whisperer.
Yeah, if he can do something with Locker, that's saying something right there.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to other quarterbacks. You've got Andrew Luck. Dave, you like him?
Let me tell you what I think about Andrew Luck. How much time you got?
I like Peyton Manning, actually.
No, I like Andrew Luck. You know that. I like him, and he's not too expensive, and it's going to be a high-scoring game. Fast-paced, plenty of points, plenty of throwing. So, yes, I'm a big fan. And none of the run game in the Indy really concerns me that much. And Philly's run defense isn't that bad.
Right.
Okay. You've got him. Like, I feel like on DraftKings, like they lowered his salary significantly.
He lowered everybody's salary.
Yeah.
Yeah, was that strange or what? I mean, they dropped Peyton Manning down like 1,400 after a monster game. Everybody dropped.
He didn't really have a monster game, though.
But you're right. But he didn't have a game to drop that much either. I mean, even Travis Kelce dropped 200 down the minimum salary.
Whoa. Well, he didn't really have a monster game either, to be fair.
I know. But my point is that I don't think hardly any players went up on DraftKings, and a lot of guys that came out with really good games still saw their salary decline, even if it's a little bit.
I mean, I feel like on DraftKings, like he is the cash game play over Andrew Luck. Okay, so there's the question: Luck or Peyton on DraftKings, Dave?
Luck.
Okay, Drew.
I would play Peyton. I'll have exposure to all of them though.
Okay, thanks for being on the fence.
I
would play Peyton. Would be my preference, but like I'm in football. In football, I make a lot more lineups than I do in other sports because A, there's a lot more time to do it, and B, football is a brutal, brutal sport that guys get injured, and I don't want all of my exposure to a few guys.
That's a good point.
Yeah. JJ?
I'd probably lean Luck, but I'm kind of with Drew.
Yeah.
Another reason with Luck, though, Dave, is Peyton might go off for 4 touchdowns, but I expect Luck to rack up a ton of yards.
But Davis says he's not that good.
Davis, okay, we're not going to get into that. You're instigating here because I'm not a huge Luck fan either. I just know the Eagles have a horrible secondary. So look, I watch every Eagles game, man. My favorite, you know that. I love the Eagles, so I watch everything they do, and their secondary is really, really bad. Even though they shut down Henny in the second half, they still got obliterated in the first quarter by Allen Hurns. And that's a lot more the secondary than it is Allen Hurns. So all I'm saying is that he should have, and Philly scores. So I can't see why you wouldn't like Andrew Luck a lot in this game at a very reasonable price point.
Yeah, that's the thing I was going to say is game script definitely is in Luck's favor this week. Just
right.
You got like I think that is Denver like 13.5 point favorites in this game against Kansas City or something.
Yeah.
I mean, the game script for Denver could go very similarly to how it went last week, which wasn't a terrible thing for Peyton, but he also had they could have ran the ball in some of those touchdowns to Julius. So he has, Luck has that going for him.
Okay, Drew, any backup kickers or cut kickers that you recommend playing this week?
Jay Feely, that's my guy. I mean, you just got to keep rolling Jay Feely because you never know when you're in Africa when a kicker might get cut that you're not aware of.
Do you
guys actually talked about kickers?
Do you want to tell people about your mistake last week, Drew? As just like
so, I made 33 lineups last week. And because I put out way more money than I usually do because it was the first week of football season and I was trying to get a lot of head-to-head action, hopefully against new players. That part worked out very well. The actual making money part didn't work out so well. And part of the reason that making money part didn't work out so well, it had a lot more to do with Jamal Charles and Demaryius Thomas, but part of it was that I had Jay Feely as one of my kickers on FanDuel in one of my lineups.
How many lineups? Just one?
Just one. But it was one of the few lineups that was off to a decent start because it didn't have Charles or Thomas, and I was charting like where I was at on Monday morning, and I was like, oh, I just need like 5 points from Jay Feely. Like I'm gonna win this head to head. And then like later on, somebody tweets at me and they're like, oh, I saw you have Feely in your lineup. He got cut, and I'm like,
awesome.
I had a horrible week 1 too. The only thing that saved me was I played a bunch of Monday night only games and made some of it back. But God, having Charles and Thomas in your lineup, especially when you watch Calvin Johnson do what he did, is really quite painful.
Yeah.
It was not a good week. And then the Feely thing, the other thing I love about Jay Feely that you may or may not have remembered, he's actually scored a touchdown as a kicker. He like on a fake field goal attempt ran in a touchdown, and so he's always got a soft spot in my heart because I used him the week that he scored a touchdown.
They didn't give him points.
Now
for that,
we're on
did
a little bit different terms.
They didn't give him points for that, did he?
Yeah, he got points for it.
That's like a pitcher hitting a home run.
No, it's totally different. Kickers are real football players. Pitchers aren't.
Says the guy that plays tennis. Am I right, Dave? All right. Let's talk about the game tonight. JJ, you're wearing the jersey. You're a big Pittsburgh fan.
Sorry to hear that, bud.
How do you feel this game's going to go tonight? Should
you
roster anybody in tonight's game? Really is the first question.
What'd you say?
Should you roster anybody in tonight's game?
Don't roster Ray Rice,
I think that or with Justin Forsett, just because the Steelers' rush D is atrocious. I said this on Twitter earlier this week. I think that their rush defense is going to be one that we target like we did Chicago's last year. It's that bad. And we saw that against Cleveland in Week 1. But I mean, it's a Baltimore-Pittsburgh matchup. It's going to be low scoring. It's not that favorable from a fantasy perspective. I'm excited just as a fan, but I'm not really from a fantasy perspective.
Drew?
Yeah, I'm a complete fade on this game tonight, and I'm trying to play Thursday night games because I want to completely fade this game. If there was more clarity to the Baltimore backfield, I think I'd be more open to considering guys in daily. But there's not really a lot of clarity there. So if you want to take a shot in a tournament on a 4-set, I'm fine with that. I just wouldn't mess around with it in cash games until we figure out who's going to be the lead back in that backfield. I mean, there's still 3 options with Ray Rice gone that could lead the team in carries tonight, and I don't have a good feel for who it's going to be.
Plus, it's Thursday night. You know they're going to go with someone completely random.
Here's the thing: tonight, like Drew just mentioned, is with a game like this is one of the best games to profit from if you play Thursday night slate and fade everyone on Thursday. Because you're going to see, I guarantee in GPPs, you're going to see a ton of ill-advised plays like Forsett. And look, he could be a decent play, don't get me wrong, but there's also a very real possibility that he does nothing as well. And I know you would know the Pittsburgh defense better than I do. It's strange to see them go so bad after being one of the best run defenses for such a long time. But it doesn't really matter with Forsett because, like you said, Drew, there's 3 options in that backfield, and we don't know what's going to happen. And with there being so many good options on Sunday and Monday night, I don't see the need because it's not optimal. You know, a lot of times people are just forcing action in there. I actually looked at a game, I'll keep it quick, on FanDuel. And the guy after Thursday night, heading into Sunday, the first, second, and third place guys had Green Bay and Seattle avatars. So that should give you an idea of what type of players you're dealing with. While 6 of their players were from Seattle and Green Bay.
Yeah, I do think that Forsett would be the guy, which is why I mentioned him. But you guys are right with regards to it being more of a GPP play. Like I would never touch that situation in a cash game whatsoever.
Seasonal leagues, go ahead. Yeah, if you have to, but
right.
Lorenzo Taliaferro, however you say his name, that will probably get like all the touches tonight, just like you said, Drew. You don't know who's going to get.
Season long. Taliaferro's the man.
Oh, I grabbed him in my season long today.
Good move.
So
Davis gave me a LeGarrette Blount comp on him, and then I just gave him the not wave. So That's how my interaction with Taliaferro went earlier in the waiver process this week.
I mean,
in my PPR leagues.
I drafted.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Taliaferro led in carries simply because here's the other thing that you have to remember. Early in the season with the Thursday night games, last week was the first time a lot of these guys played 4 quarters, and so it's the first time their body is recovering after 4 quarters of football. And it's a short week.
Yep.
And for a guy like Forsett, who hasn't been a full-time player throughout his career, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a little bit more wear and tear on his body than a guy like an Arian Foster or somebody who's had all those touches,
heavy workloads.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's a good point.
Flacco or Roethlisberger tonight?
Neither.
Yeah.
I've got the choice. I'm drafting right now. I've got the choice of Eli Manning, Chad Henne, Joe Flacco, Roethlisberger, Matt Ryan, or RG3.
Well, I mean, Matt Ryan.
Right. Other than Matt Ryan, I've got to pick 2. It's elite draft.
You know what? I would go RG3.
I personally would take Flacco before Roethlisberger tonight.
I would take Robert.
I know that's going to sound really strange. I know that's going to sound really strange, but from a DFS perspective, from a salary perspective, there's going to be more savings there. And I think there's more ways the Pittsburgh offense can hurt you than the Baltimore offense can hurt you.
Yeah. I grabbed Le'Veon Bell just so I could have some action tonight. I took a $55 against Magic Sports guy. His name is Kevin. His also name on DraftKings, his name is Damp. DAMP.
Yeah, he's a good dude. He almost won the perfect game. I was talking to him yesterday. He's helped me out with some financial stuff with DFS. Smart guy.
Oh, really?
Real smart dude.
Really? You open up an account in the Virgin Islands?
Laundering money through. Yep. No, not quite.
Okay. Nice. Well, at least you didn't just put it out there for everyone to see. By everyone, I mean 30 people. So there's that. All right.
I just said he helped me with some stuff, buddy. Don't put words in my mouth.
Well, that's not. Anyways, let's talk about Vegas. Who Vegas really likes, does not like this week. What was like the highest over under that you saw, Dave?
I think it's.
Isn't it Philly?
Yeah, it's Philly.
It's Eagles goal.
Philly. Yeah, and then you got another one that's sitting at 52. Denver, which kind of surprises me, to be honest with you. I thought it'd be a little lower, just with the Chiefs not really being.
Did you see Denver last week against the Titans?
No, I understand. Against who?
The Titans.
You said did I see Denver?
The Chiefs. Sorry.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, their offense was also putrid. So, I don't know. I mean, if they slow the game down in the fourth quarter, you could see on less than 52 points, or it's 51 now. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I think those Denver, and I'm not a betting guy, so take this with a grain of salt, but I think those Denver overs tend to err on the side of the higher end of a projection spectrum because people tend to like to bet on overs and people tend to like to bet on public teams like Denver. And I think there's always the protection built in for if Denver puts up 40. So I think again, Vegas is just trying to create the most accurate projection possible. They're not so much cared about where the money's going to come in. But I think if there's any slight error, it's going to be on the side of being high than low with a Denver game. Yeah,
they're the highest scoring home score. Then you've got Indy with the second highest home score. Then you've got San Fran against Chicago. This is a Sunday night game. Drew, I'll get your take since you're the Chicago fan. Niners favored by 7. Bears coming off that bad loss on Sunday. So your thoughts on this game? We're not really sure really right now what's going to look like because Jeffrey and Marshall are kind of question marks.
And 2 offensive line. The Bears are in they're in dire straits like right now, just offensively. They don't have, as a team, they're not a very deep team. They were very deep at wide receiver. They lost their third wide receiver in the preseason. Before the preseason even kicked off, Marquez Wilson, who's a big breakout candidate for a lot of people as a young wide receiver. They lost him. Then now Marshall and Jeffrey are banged up. They cut Michael Spurlock, who played a ton for them last week. That would leave like Santonio Holmes as the top wide receiver. He was signed while I was in Africa. So there's not a lot to be excited about as a Bears fan. Granted, San Francisco's D looked shaky against Dallas in terms of allowing the Cowboys to move up and down before Romo turned the ball over. And they lost 2 starting cornerbacks in that game, so maybe there's some hope, but I'm just not very optimistic. The 49ers are also like a nightmare matchup for the Bears in terms of their defense because 49ers offensive line is just so big and just pushes people around. So I'm not looking forward to that game.
Okay. Are you back on the Frank Gore train? Anybody?
Man, what a disaster he was last week.
Yeah, it's tough to get excited because you don't. I mean, you don't know how they're going to split carries there with. And if the thing with Gore last week, I feel like a lot of it had to do with them jumping out to that early lead, and because Chicago's defense is terrible, because their defense is bad, it could be kind of the same recipe this week with Carlos Hyde stealing a red zone look and getting that touchdown. It was unfortunate because I played Gore pretty heavily last week.
Me too, because I thought if he only gets 70 yards, he's at least going to have a touchdown.
Right.
And it was real surprising not to see that. I wasn't expecting 20-plus carries because it just doesn't seem to be what they do with him anymore. He's aging, and it's Frank Gore. And I personally don't prefer to play Frank Gore ever, but he was so cheap on DraftKings that it was really hard to fade him at 5,300. And it came back to hurt me pretty bad. Again, like JJ just said, there's too much going in that 49ers run game right now for me to trust him, especially when there's no set carries. You don't even have a general idea of what you're going to get with him. Hell, I'd go Forte if you got banged up wide receivers on the other end of that game.
Mm-hmm. The other thing to keep an eye on, though, is that both 49ers corners could be out, starting corners, which would be huge if those starting Bears wideouts can get healthy.
Yeah,
I think Marshall's going to play. The Jeffrey thing is weird. Like in the game, they said he was probable to return, but he never even looked close to the field. He was just standing on the sideline. Right. Then they said they thought he'd be fine. He hasn't practiced all week. I think there's something bigger going on there than they're letting on. So I think Marshall will play hampered. I think Jeffrey probably won't, and then I think it'll be a lot of Forte, Marshall, and Martellus Bennett.
Yeah.
Ooh, so we have a conspiracy theory. I did notice that they said probable to return, but yet, like
he was never even close to like getting back on the field. Like Marshall, they called him like questionable instantly, and then Marshall just runs back out on the next. Yeah. He doesn't care.
No, that's what sucks about those designations that they put. It means nothing. Probable means like when they're heading into a Sunday, usually probable means definite, and questionable many times means probable. Doubtful means they're out. Sometimes there's that upgrade, but it doesn't help us much at all. They just give us a damn answer because it's so frustrating.
Dave.
A darn answer. Sorry, buddy.
Oh, this guy. On edge. Calm down. Other games like to avoid, I guess, or like you might want to target defenses. That St. Louis Tampa Bay game is going to be gross.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got Tampa Bay's defense that's pretty cheap across industry. So some defenses to throw out. Tampa Bay,
Arizona,
Washington. You think Arizona? Against
Absolutely.
the Giants?
The one thing with Arizona that scares me: short week, Monday night, traveling East Coast for an early game. Just throwing it out there. That's the matchup is beautiful.
No, you're right. No, but you're right because they've done studies that teams that come from the West Coast to the East Coast tend to struggle more. You're right.
Right.
But Eli Manning is so bad. I feel like this game could be in Antarctica, and they still have 2 defensive touchdowns. So, I completely agree with you, but at the same time, and I know it's in New York, but at the same time, Eli looked so bad. The offense was out of sync. They couldn't get the ball to their best receiver. They're a disaster right now.
Totally.
But that's definitely point well taken. I just think that Arizona is a good defense, and they They travel to the East Coast plenty every year. But yes, the short week and the jet lag.
It's more so just a thing to. I mean, like Arizona's still a good play, I think.
Yeah, Drew, your thoughts as far as defenses go? Maybe teams to target.
I'm very bitter about the Bucks D being a potential play again this week after they just ravaged my bankroll along with Jamal Charles and Demaryius Thomas last week. But yeah, I get it. St. Louis was looking like a decent play, but losing Chris Long really, really does hurt.
Yeah.
But McCown looked as incompetent as he always did before Mark Trestman got his hands on him. So there was some upside there. The price point's a little bit better this week than it was last week. And then I like Green Bay's defense as well. Geno turns it over a bunch. From a points perspective, I could see the Jets putting up, teams even into the low 20s in points, but I think the turnover potential is very high. And then I think Houston's a great defense. You're going to have to spend for them though this week that you didn't have to last week. So that's a bit of a different price point.
Right. That's the problem is that Houston went off last week, so their price, they're like top 3, top 5 on most sites as far as price goes.
Another thing to consider too is, when you're choosing a defense, you don't have to look for the team that's going to shut another team out because turnovers mean so much more in daily than anything else. Defensive touchdowns, or special and another thing is take special teams into account too. All of that factors into it. Personally, I think they should just eliminate defense altogether. But you want to consider.
Am I right, Dave? Am I right?
What?
IDP needs to join DFS, right?
No, just another spot that I can put Andrew Luck in, maybe a QB flex. Go ahead.
I think Buffalo's an interesting play this week too. At home, Ryan Tannehill's been atrocious against them during his career, and they've looked really good against Chicago in Week 1. So I'm just throwing that one out there.
What about the obvious of Seattle against San Diego? You've got Philip Rivers has said he's going, he's basically not scared of Richard Sherman's going to throw at him.
Good job, Philip. See how that works out.
Such a terrible idea.
So,
and then tell Sherman before the game, so now you can hype him up even more.
Yeah.
Smart move.
And you've got Eddie Royal, who just their passing efficiency when he was when the ball was targeting him was so atrocious this past week. I still don't know that's what's tough about DFS, NFL, or really fantasy, really. Just fantasy in general, is when you try to put yourself in the coach's shoes. Well, of course, they've got Ladarius Green. Why wouldn't they go to Ladarius Green out there? And then you see Eddie Royal taking the majority of the snaps to start it off, and Antonio Gates looking like the 2004 Antonio Gates. And so that's when it becomes frustrating, when you try putting yourself in those shoes. So I made the mistake last week of trying to get too sexy. I wanted to get Jamal Charles in my cash game lineup on DraftKings, so I dropped Julius Thomas, and I went to Ladarius Green, and that was a mistake. I needed to just play it safe in the cash games. It's funny because in my tournament games, I had Julius Thomas.
Well, we get greedy because when somebody's so cheap, you say, he could go off, and then I can get this guy and this guy in there too. And you kind of overlook the downside sometimes. Right. But I know, Dave, you came at me for this one, but every time in the past that Antonio Gates has been questionable heading into the game that he's played, he has never been a big part of the offense. Over the past several years, look at the games where he's come in hobbled.
I agree with you. We said it on the show last week.
You said no, Dave. You're the only one that thought that.
No, it was that was sarcasm. That is what everybody thinks.
Well, you have to tell somebody it's sarcasm afterwards.
Well, I was rolling my eyes, but you couldn't see it because your computer was so bad on Sunday morning.
Okay, but yeah, that was a surprise. He's usually used as a decoy. Or at least to block whatever they're using him for. I was just very surprised that it went down like that. I was really surprised that he was that big a part of that passing game.
Okay, if you're spending on defense, would you rather spend on Seattle or Houston?
That's tough. Seattle's safer.
Yeah, I think it's Seattle.
But Houston's also $600 cheaper on DraftKings, and every dollar counts with defense, in my opinion. Like, if you can get a cheap defense with a good matchup, you got to go for it. I prefer to spend as the least that I can if I trust the matchup.
Okay. Drew?
Oh, sorry. That question's a tough one. I think I'd actually lean Houston.
They're the same price on FanDuel, Dave, for what it's worth.
I'm so tired of San Diego taking the air out of the ball in games that I just don't know if you'll get the same volume of opportunities in terms of pass attempts and potential big plays. So if you're playing just like the points version of it, I actually don't think they're that different because I don't see a lot of Oakland upside in scoring. But I think there's a lot more upside in big plays and turnovers and touchdowns and different things like that with Houston.
JJ?
Yeah, with exactly what Drew said. Period.
Wow.
He said it well.
Yeah, I guess he did.
I also don't mind the Broncos D this week. They're going to be under-owned because that total's really high.
Yeah.
But, if the Chiefs just scored 10 points against Tennessee, I don't know what else to do with that.
Alex Smith,
other than say 3,100 on DK for the Broncos doesn't seem like a bad play to me.
Yeah.
So, Drew, what defense has the best chance, in your opinion, of having a defensive touchdown?
I would say Houston.
So there's your answer.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, wide receivers that you like. High-end wide receivers. Demarius, is he on the bounce-back train? Would you rather have someone else other than Demarius? Drew, start with you.
The only guy I'd even consider above Demarius right now, and this might kill me again 2 weeks in a row, and it depends on his health because he missed practice today, would be AJ Green. But Demarius, so here's the thing. I wrote this article for our subscribers talking about market share and using market share to evaluate week one and compared Charles to Demarius. And Demarius saw 9 percentage points more targets than he saw last year. He saw more red zone targets than he saw the year before, more red zone opportunities, which is just targets plus carries, which he's never going to get carries. But he saw upticks in all of those things that we expected with no Decker and no Welker. And he sucked. He didn't play well. So it's like, all right, guy didn't play well, but all the opportunities are there. I'm gonna take my chance with that. Whereas with Charles, his market share numbers for targets, for carries, for red zone stuff, it was all way down. So to me, that's like a huge. Now I don't know what I'm dealing with the Chiefs offense. So
and with Thomas,
let's talk about those two players different. But with Thomas, I know the opportunities were there. He just has to play up to the player that I think he is. The Chiefs secondary sucks, so I'll take my chances again.
Yeah,
right. Because when you have a quarterback like that, and the raw talent that Demaryius Thomas has, when you're getting those opportunities, you're going to fall into a good game, when you have those working for you.
There's a good stat that Rich Rebar tweeted out at Lord Reeves. Said in the previous 6 games that Demaryius Thomas was held under 50 yards with Peyton, he came back and either scored or hit 100 yards the next week.
Yeah.
How about that?
And I mean, based on the opportunities he got last game, if you prorated his performance last season based on those opportunities, it would have been 7 catches for 107 yards and 1.4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
That's exactly what you paid for last week. He just didn't play well. And so that's frustrating.
I feel like the AJ Green note that you made, I feel like not enough people are talking about the Dalton AJ Green stack this week, just in general. I think last year had a 10-point swing when he played top half defense versus bottom half defense. He scored 27 points per game against bottom half defenses. Atlanta's defense is terrible. It's a high over/under. Bengals are favored. It is Andy Dalton last year was one of the most. The reason he finished as a top 5 quarterback in season long was because he had those blow up games. And
he's an effing stat padder. That's what he does around the goal line. He just pads stats in favorable matchups. He just calls his own number. I hate that guy. because that's all he does. Whenever there's a good matchup, he just sits there and he's like, nope, screw you, Gio. Screw you, Ben Jarvis. I'm throwing these touchdowns. Like, we got it easy. We're up four touchdowns in the fourth. I'm still firing away. And he won like 2 people $1 million last year just stat padding.
Right.
So take your shots.
The thing with Dalton too is that he played well against a division rival last week, which we haven't seen from him in years past. He looked better last week than he has. Atlanta's defense is atrocious. It's terrible. It's still not good. I know that people were excited about last week, but they were at home, indoors. Now they're going outdoors to Cincinnati. Like I think it's one of those games for Andy Dalton where he's kind of underlooked, and I think mostly because there's so many other good quarterback values out there in daily. But I think that he's still pretty underlooked for what he's capable. Like, it shouldn't surprise anyone if he's a top 5 quarterback this week.
Yeah, I mean, there was one guy who was on AJ Green last week. I forget what his name was.
You were, Dave. You were.
Oh, yo, silly me, I forgot.
Even a blind squirrel, buddy.
But just the fact that there's just not a lot of targets out there, and now you take away Eifert. He's not going to be in the mix, and so
get on that Jermaine Gresham bandwagon, though, man.
Are you on the Jermaine Gresham?
He's gonna get like 8 to 10 targets.
Yeah, I picked him up.
Jermaine Gresham's like a legit good player who just got put into the worst situation where they drafted Eifert and now he's buried. But I mean, that guy was like an early round pick. He was a legit player.
Yeah, he's gonna be like the number 2 now.
Yeah, well, Hugh Jackson's offense, too, if you look at his history, when he's had a decent to legitimate tight end, he had Zach Miller in Oakland and Algie Crumpler in Atlanta, they were fringe tight end ones in fantasy. Like, he's going to get targeted. He's going to get looks. And there's no Marvin Jones either. Mohamed Sanu's terrible. Yeah. So I think Gresham's definitely worth a look.
Without Eifert, without Jones, I totally agree. I picked him, so I picked up Telefero and Gresham today in my week-long because... I'm streaming tight ends because I chose to go late round QB and late round tight end. So,
smart man.
Yeah, well, my team sucks, so maybe not. But that's what I said last year, and it turned out pretty good. But yeah, so let's touch on just some other stories this week. You've got the Miami running back situation. Noshawn Moreno looked fairly decent. I feel like it's
what the hell was that? Like, I was so confused last week because everybody was talking about how good New England's defense was going to be this year. And everybody, I mean, I saw Noshawn run last year. Like, he can get his 4 yards when it's blocked for him.
Yeah.
Right.
What the hell? I didn't get to watch that game on Rewind or anything yet, but, like, what the hell happened there?
Bill Lazor, man. It's the Bill Lazor offense.
Did you say get his 4 yards when he's blocked for?
That's what he got. Like last year with Peyton, it was like 4 and 5 yards at a time, which is very good for real NFL offense. But like he was never breaking out anything big, and then like just absolutely that offense just grinded down the New England defense.
Yeah.
They've always played them. They've been playing the New England well for a while now, though.
Oh, we're gonna go with team history.
Oh no, I mean no, obviously not. But I'm saying points scored wise, they have. You look at Miami; they've played New England well.
Well, it's
a divisional foe.
You've got Lazor. Tuttle talked about it in his article, his snap count article. But you've got Lazor, who is he is quoted by saying, "I expect them both to contribute. There might be days where sometimes they may rotate by series and sometimes they may rotate by play if there are particular things that we want." So basically running, it still sounds like running back by committee, hot hand approach, whatever you want to call it. But Moreno...
Miller led the league in red zone targets last week.
Yeah.
Right.
Like he and Thomas both had 4.
Yeah, so that would be a fish... That would be a fish play. Not even like a GPP play, but that would be a fish play to play either of those guys this week.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Just don't do it. All right. If you're looking for the Terrence West situation, like how do you feel about West this week, JJ?
Super solid. I think everyone's making a big deal about Crowell, but I think what we need to realize is that Crowell only had 5 carries against the Steelers. Terrence West was still the guy against the Steelers. He had 16 carries, 100 yards. He was very solid. I think the problem, like, we're looking at Isaiah Crowell's upside. Like, he's a freak. We all understand that. But, like, we have to realize what the coaches are doing and what they're saying. And they're clearly saying that Terrence West is the guy. Mike Pettin even said after the game that Isaiah Crowell was not even close to part of the game plan for the Browns. The only reason he was playing was because Ben Tate got hurt, obviously. I think Crowell can see maybe 5 to 10 touches, but I think it's going to be a Terrence West show for them this week. And they're a run-first team. I love his price point. I'm playing him a lot this week.
Yeah, and the report is that Crowell's going to play a complementary role.
Right.
So you take that for what it is, and you're looking at 5 to 10 touches. You could see less than you could if West gets going. If it's one of those hot hand situations, which I could envision happening with Cleveland, then Crowell might be phased out altogether. But I would, you're expecting a handful. But yeah, I'm with JJ on that. It's a good play.
Like Mike Pettin doesn't screw around. Like he the whole entire offseason, he's told us exactly how it is. He hasn't lied about anything with the Manziel stuff. He's very to the point. He's not lying. Like, he's going to play Terrence West. Period.
Oh.
The other part that's so great about Terrence West is the fact that they were down 75 points at halftime, and they still just ran the ball over and over again. So you have to feel pretty good that the volume is going to be there no matter what the game script is, because
Cameron was also out. Jordan Cameron, didn't he leave? Where did he leave?
But he might not play this week either.
I have a feeling he will.
Yeah, they're saying they're putting window dressing on it now, where they're just calling it like a slightly sprained AC joint when it seemed when it happened really bad.
I sprayed my AC joint. It hurts like hell.
You did not sprain your AC joint.
Twice, buddy.
I'm not talking about your pot smoking days, Dave.
What are you talking about? But I don't know. Cameron, if he's in, I still think it doesn't really make much of a difference. I think West is still a good play.
The Kyle Shanahan offense is going to be run first. It's just the way that it is. That team is going to run the football. Terrence West could get 20 carries this week. It's not out of the question at all.
No, not at all.
Okay. So let's talk about the GPP quarterbacks. If you had to choose one, Russell Wilson or Carson Palmer?
Russell Wilson.
I'd choose Russ.
Yeah, I'll go Russell Wilson. Not huge on either, though.
Yeah, me either.
The Konami code, man.
Yeah.
Always play that upside.
Did you see?
Although Carson Palmer Konami code hard.
Did you see
He did.
Did you see the Giants secondary though?
Yeah. I did.
Bad. They're really
pitiful.
bad.
But
the thing is,
they're
talent-wise, though, their corners are good.
Yeah.
They played terribly that game, but talent-wise, those corners are pretty decent.
Right. And
so I'm not going too nuts there.
The Lions have a pretty high-powered attack. Let's not discredit that.
Yeah, right. Ooh, that Calvin fella. Get out of here. No, I just think Russell Wilson. Yeah, he can do it with his legs. But give me Carson Palmer and his 400 yards.
Woo, 400.
Yeah, I said it. 400 yards passing. I like them both. But as a GPP play, give me Carson Palmer this week. He also, I think, is cheaper than Russell Wilson pretty much everywhere.
Yeah.
So
he is.
So he gives you more cap room. So
he's not cheaper than Wilson on DraftKings.
Well, I mean, on DraftKings, you're playing Peyton Manning anyways. I'm sorry, you're playing Andrew
Luck.
Yeah, get it together, pal.
Yeah, sorry. Okay. Wide receivers that you like, C-Pat. Is he in the running? Nah, not really. I'm looking for playmaker wide receivers.
T.Y. Hilton is interesting this week. We saw Allen Hurns beat that Eagles secondary deep. I hate T.Y. Hilton first and foremost. I think he's very overrated, but he has those blow-up games, and this could be that blow-up game.
Okay. Drewski?
I like that suggestion. In terms of Well, I hate T.Y. Hilton too, so I even like the.
That's because Reggie Wayne's gonna have like a Reggie Wayne of old games.
I love Reggie Wayne in cash games.
Yeah, I do like Reggie, especially on FanDuel. His price on FanDuel is really, really cheap.
He was held out of practice. Sorry,
that's
Drew.
probably
I'm interrupting
day, man.
I'm interrupting you, Drew, but I think you're probably even a half second behind anyway. So, but he was held out of practice. It's probably just because he's old, but just wanted to say that.
Yeah, Andre Johnson was too.
Drew, you're saying something?
The other thing on Hilton and Wayne is just with Hilton, there's some upside too because the Eagles' best corner is in the slot, and Reggie plays a lot of slot, especially on key downs. So I think there is some big play upside to Hilton there. In terms of another wide receiver that I like, I'm on the Jordy train as well this week.
Yes.
I like the Green Bay passing game a lot in general, and so I like Rodgers and Jordy's the combo to me. He had like 40% of the targets in the first game. He's the better red zone option. I mean, when they get down in the red zone, they're basically throwing to a bunch of small guys and then Jordy. I'll take my shots with Jordy.
Do you know who the conductor of the Jordy train is this week?
It's probably Davis Maddox.
It's Davis Maddox.
Not surprising.
No. He is.
I love Jordy though.
Yeah, he's the cover boy for the Automatic Absolutes.
Why isn't he going with Janice?
I don't know. I mean, give it a few weeks. You've got if we can tell a quick story about Davis because he's probably not listening. Even when he's on the show, he's not listening, so he's not going to hear this. But he submitted his article, and Dan was like, "Now, Davis, are you sure? Are you sure you've read through it multiple times?" And it was like, "Oh yeah. No, it's good to go. It's good to go." Well, like literally 2 seconds after he said that, Dan posted a screenshot, and it was in the little preview box, and Davis spelled his last name wrong.
His own
doesn't get worse.
Oh yeah.
His own last name. Mattak.
Davis Mattak.
Attack.
The Davis Mattak goes in so Davis's response was, "Well, good start." Like, there's not really you could say with that. When you say something's like 100% good to go, you've double checked it, and then you spell your own name wrong. It's
because it happened last week too.
Not with his own name, no.
No. But it happened with, mixing up pitchers with hitters, which is easy to do when you're copy pasting. It's not easy to misspell your own name.
I would understand. I would understand if it was like an R or a W since it's next to the E on the keyboard. But he went with another vowel, which is clearly like that's how he thought the name was spelled.
He looked at it for a couple minutes and he's like, "That's it. That looks right. Yeah. We'll go with Mattak. Submit." Right.
Yeah, it's like he probably purposefully did it and just said swag after it, and like,
yeah,
everybody's doing it. Like Automatic Absolutes. Forget the E. Just forget it.
Man.
So, anyways, Davis, hope you get it feeling better. Not to pile on. Oh, man. All right, as we kind of wind up the show, let's talk about the tight ends. You've got the normal cast of characters. You've got Delaney Walker against the Cowboys. Delaney does see some red zone touches. So I feel like he's a GPP play, but like, are you risking it? Like Zach Ertz, another guy. Are you risking tight end? Or are you going with the normal cast of characters? Gronk.
Well, what
Graham?
cast of characters you're referring to? The
Gronk,
most expensive.
Graham, and Julius Thomas. What other cast of characters would I be referring to?
Well, you could be referring to other cast of characters. I don't know, buddy. That's why I asked.
You know the characters in the tight end game, Dave. Don't act like you don't know the cast of characters.
I don't. I do now.
Well, who'd you think? Who'd you think was in there?
I think you can save some money at the position.
Oh, because that worked out well last week.
Yeah, it was brutal, but did spending for Demaryius Thomas and Jamal Charles work out? So that theory's shot.
You could go with the backup kicker.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
He's technically not even a backup. I mean,
yeah, that's true.
To find a home. Like, we need to find Jay Feely a home. Like, I should do a shelter ad for Jay Feely.
I like Zach Ertz a lot, to be honest.
I'm just holding a little picture of Jay Feely.
All right,
with $1 a month.
Ertz is in play for you, and I would agree. Ertz and Delaney are the other two guys that I'm not comfortable with going anybody else. Like I'm not comfortable going Jordan Cameron either. I saw him in the lineup.
I think one guy to look at on FanDuel is Greg Olsen against Detroit. We saw Larry Donnell find some holes against them last week. Greg Olsen's going to get a lot of targets. I think he's a solid play with Cam coming back.
Okay, side note, yay or nay on Kelvin Benjamin this week?
I think there's better options, but he's not bad though.
Okay, I said yay or nay, JJ. I didn't.
Nay.
Okay, you could have said may. That'd have been sweat.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, that's good.
Drew tight ends this week.
I like Jermaine Gresham. I like Larry Donnell. I don't mind. He was obviously a big part of the Giants' passing game, and Arizona is a team you always attack with tight ends.
Yeah.
They're both minimum price on FanDuel. They're both around the minimum, I think. I know Gresham is. Yeah, they're both minimum price on DraftKings as well. So I'm good with those guys. I also like Kyle Rudolph because I think that Belichick's going to scheme to try to take away Patterson. But that's the part that gets a little bit fluky because Belichick didn't really do that last week with Revis and Wallace. So.
Drew.
But
this is what I love about you. When you start predicting game flow,
I'm just like Rudolph. He's a big part of their offense. He's a big part of their offense in the red zone. He's like 5,500 on FanDuel. He's really cheap on FanDuel. So I think he deserves a look as well.
You know what's funny about Larry Donnell? On that one drive, it was almost like they refused to score unless it went to Larry Donnell. So it seems like they really like him there. He's a monster. I wouldn't be surprised, even if he doesn't have many yards, if he still has some red zone looks. And sometimes that's all that matters.
So right? You can exploit Arizona.
It sounds like you guys are not going with the cast of characters. You're going with the special guest this week.
Yeah.
Who are the cast of characters again?
Oh my gosh, Dave, the big three.
I know, buddy. Relax. I'm just joking.
Like Gronk is stupid cheap on DraftKings.
Yeah.
So of the three, he's the guy that I'm most likely to deploy. Like Jimmy Graham. Here's the thing: the Saints. They're always priced for being so awesome, but they have such wide splits between home and road offensive performance that I tend not to load up on Saints when they're on the road. Now, I had a lot of Graham last week, but that was in a dome. I'm just more comfortable. I'm more comfortable paying the top prices for them when they're at home or when they're in domes.
Okay. Well, consider me.
And Julius, whatever. Like, you're not scoring 3 touchdowns 2 weeks in a row.
Really?
My bankroll really hopes.
And I don't think you can take a risk with any indie tight ends either. I know Dwayne Allen had a solid game, but he's
a GPP guy though.
Right, but also I mean, Luck had to throw
up
so much. So you have Fleener who saw 8 targets to Dwayne Allen's 5. He did way worse than him, but you can't predict what's going on with those two.
Fleener played more snaps, too, which is just... Right. It doesn't make any sense. Pep Hamilton doesn't know what he's doing with his personnel. It's stupid.
Well, his first name is Pep, so...
Yeah, that's fair.
If we had something definitive there, I would have no problem playing an indie tight end.
Yeah, no, but I think that's why I think he's a good GPP play. Like
Dwayne Allen?
Yeah, like pairing...
Yeah, me too. Absolutely.
Pairing him with... either Ty or Reggie, whichever guy you decide to go with, and if Luck goes off for 4 touchdowns, and it's all to those 2 guys, I made a tournament lineup earlier this week on FanDuel, and Dwayne Allen was in there. With Luck and Reggie Wayne, and it was
he was in mine too.
It was a sexy lineup. I mean, it was a sexy, but consider me in the cast of characters camp. Now, don't give me that. Don't give me that guffaw, whatever it is.
You know Kelsey's going to go off this week, too.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a given.
I
Green.
like Kelsey this week.
Yeah.
I do. He's dirt cheap. If you want to talk about a GPP play, there it is right there. Kansas City's going to have to throw the ball, like, a lot. Even if he's a secondary part of the offense, you've got to think that he's going to get some residual, garbage points. I think he could be. He's $3,000 on DraftKings. I think he could be a very interesting GPP play.
He was targeted right before Fasano scored last week too, which was the worst part about that.
Yeah, when he scored, it was like, no. Because I was watching on the Red Zone.
Terrible.
And that's definitely.
Did anyone else pepper Ladarius Green's chat on Chargers.com today or wherever that was? With like questions of like, why won't they play you? Why does your coaching staff love Eddie Royal? I spent like a half hour doing that.
That's amazing.
I didn't get a single question through though. They seem to be moderating that thing.
I bet you were typing so mad.
I mean, my keyboard was as loud as it's ever been.
And Steve Finkelstein cat block.
Speaking of Steve, in case you missed it, he did
the bunny savior.
He did save a drowning rabbit yesterday. He felt awful, but we talked about this. Immediately after he saved the bunny, he asked Twitter what food he should feed it.
He said, I don't know what to feed it.
Because right after the bunny's in shock is when you want to feed it some food. Whenever you watch like Baywatch, as soon as they get the water out of the person, can we get a hot dog to this man? Please. Does anybody have a hot dog?
That's what I said. I said I'm still trying to wrap my mind around why the first thing that pops up is, trying to feed this thing pretzels.
All right. Well, we're just gonna wrap it up with that then. I don't think we could wrap up the show any better than with a Steve saving a drowning rabbit story. So, JJ from Number Fire, JJ, y'all have all sorts of statistical stuff there, right?
Yeah, man. Go check it out. Tons of content. It's fun times.
Fun times. And then, Drew, you're with the Daily Fantasy Rundown there with 2 hats, 1 mic.
Yeah, 2 hats, 1 mic, and myself running the Daily Fantasy Rundown over at Roto Experts. We've got cheat sheet packages, daily analysis packages. Lowest price of the season for us with football is just $14.95 a month can get you in the door.
Very nice. Be on the lookout for Davis's article coming out later today. We also have Sean Siegel. Mark Gindy wrote his article on DraftKings thrift shopping. And then we're going to be sending out an email if you are a monthly or seasonal subscriber. If you upgrade to an annual subscription, or if you just buy an annual subscription, you get the Derek Carty projections for free for the rest of the season. And as you know, Dave, those projections...
They're golden, babe. They're golden.
I mean, I'm not sure about golden, but they're at least worth $20,000, right?
They're golden.
Yeah.
That's like 10,000. The other 10,000 was me, but I'll take it.
That'll do it for today's show. Join us tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern, with Evan Silva and not Davis Maddock. Davis Maddock will not be there.
Matak.
Davis Matak.
Matak.
Dan Gasser, Mr. Toto 05 will be there, and it'll be good times. We'll talk to you later. Thanks, guys.
Thank God you stopped with the rap.